GTV Breakfast. Prof, good morning to you.
Good morning, and thanks for coming.
Thank you for inviting us into your home and for honoring the invitation to speak on our platform.
I've been with GTV for some 40 years.
A very, very strong advocate.
And others were people who related very well with.
We would have loved to have you.
May he rest in peace.
Indeed, the Grandmaster has sowed his seeds in the sands of time. We would have loved to host you at home because GBC is home for personalities like you, but we are happy that you also had us here. What have you been up to lately?
Writing, reading.
Okay. Are you still writing on human rights, good governance?
Is it so that it will talk about the times in which I lived. And it's interesting that I've lived through some very interesting times. I was born during the World War II. I lived to match the colonial times. May Day was Empire Day for us in school. 24th May, we marched for the British flag. And I was lucky to have marched also for the Ghana flag, 1957, and then 58 I went to Presec. So I've been through all these times from Nkrumah, and we all know the chronology of events, till today. So I think I can also tell a bit of the context in which I lived.
I'm sure it would be a very exciting book. And how soon do we expect it to be on the shelf?
As soon as possible, but we are in the stage, at the stage of crossing the T's and dotting the I's.
Okay.
And a book cannot afford mistakes. So you must make sure and double sure that all is
factual, that all the checks have been made, and it's a true account of what happened. Because one of the key problems that we have is that history is being told by so many different voices, and sometimes they are challenged on the accuracy of the details that are shared on some of these platforms. So it will be quite exciting to have your book, this memoir, adding to the wealth of knowledge of history that we have. And I'm very, very expectant of reading that book. But since 2021, when you, I think, appeared to have taken the step back from the limelight of Parliament and parliamentary affairs, I'm sure you've had the time to look on at what has happened now since then. What's your assessment of how far we've come on this march forward towards democracy?
There are different challenges at different times. And with regard to current challenges, this parliament is living really up to it as well. Right Honorable Babi is a very experienced man. And I always say that for him. He's been with Parliament since Parliament started in the Fourth Republic. In fact, he's the only person left.
A career parliamentarian.
He's a career MP. And particularly, I enjoyed working with him, Honorable Haruna Idrisu, of course, Oseche Mensa Bonsu Oquaye, as well as my fine deputy, Joe Weiss, Honorable Wusu. These were typical members of Parliament. They loved Parliament. They worked Parliament. And they contributed tremendously. And my respect for them in this regard will never really cease. And they were very helpful in bringing about the Private Members Bill, which I conceptualized. Without such men, you may have some good ideas, but you cannot implement them. And I always give them a lot of the credit as
What's the strength of Parliament in the absence of all these brains?
Oh, brains never cease. Maybe even those who are coming may be brainier than those who have left or are living. Ayuko Ama, the Ghanaian novelist, wrote a very beautiful book. He said the beautiful ones are not yet born. Sometimes when I see some of the things that are painful in Ghana, I said, oh God, let the beautiful ones be born
now.
Yes.
So that we can,
exactly.
gaze and gaze upon them.
Yes. So I have confidence in the youth. After I taught for a few decades in the university. So I believe in them. Yeah.
Professor of Political Science and all the experience that came with it, which we then brought into Parliament, serving two-time MP for this very constituency. And we are in Honorable's abode, his home. and that wealth translated into deputy speaker and then speaker, and now no one can take your name out of the great statesmen of our country, undoubtedly. But I'm sure that having supervised yourself a time in parliament where you also witnessed a super majority of a political party, how do you compare those times and that era to now when it comes to accountability and actually holding the executive arm of government to account?
In parliament, the majority will of course prevail ultimately. And that is what majoritarian rule is also about.
Having your way versus having your say argument.
And the way must be given them positively. That is one thing about democracy. If you stultify the opposition, then you are being dictatorial. At the end, they may lose the vote. But I think it's very, very important for the majority to realize that it is an inherent part of the democratic process that they should accommodate the minority.
Do you think that's happening now?
You know what? I'll answer you this way. We are having some interesting ding-dong in parliament.
Lots of walkouts and...
Some time ago, those who are in the minority now were enjoying some very comfortable majority. And it happened even from the 1996 period. Therefore, any party that happens to be in the majority at any given time must now realize that in Ghana, it is possible for you to be in the opposition at the next election. Very often, politicians forget this and they over-enjoy their majority. But when the minority time comes and the tables turn, then they cry foul.
Do you see the current tussle sometimes as democratic vibrancy or an institutional decline?
Well, we are still a developing nation, you know. We are still developing. Our institutions are still baby institutions. No doubt about that. And that's why we must be very, very careful in developing practices. That's why we must be very, very careful in not being unnecessarily emotional. President Mills gave us a very interesting advice, which I have captured for posterity. He said, this country must not continue to behave as if we make 4 steps forward and then we make 3 steps backward. We may take a very long time to get to where we want to get to. Among the Ghanaians, we say here. On your jabbing, you go forward and you come back and you enjoy our say here, that's that way. We don't build nations like institutions and not any individual deification. No one human being can build Ghana. There's nobody who has got the capacity to understand everything, to know everything, to conceptualize everything, and also implement everything.
So is Parliament stronger today or weaker than when you presided over it?
It's very difficult to say because I'm not taking time to really make what I may call a scientific comparative analysis. But the point is that Parliament is still vibrant. Parliament is still accommodating the minority. And when you look at the pros and cons of it, all you have to do is to encourage them to do more.
Is there an excessive partisanship still?
Excessive partisanship is in every parliament, even the British Parliament. There is a certain amount of what one may describe as excessive partisanship. But the real thing is you must have your say. When that happens, I think you have done your bit. And I was very, very much persistent on this when I was speaker. Many people were a bit surprised about my approach when, for example, Honorable Ayariga was being dragged to court by the special prosecutor. I took a firm stand on the basis of the law, basis of the constitution, basis of the standing orders, that when a parliamentarian is in the process of doing his work during term time, you cannot arrest him and stop him from his duties because you say he has committed some crime. You have to obey that regulation both in the constitution and our standing orders. It doesn't matter whether the person belongs to the majority or the minority. And this is one thing that I insisted upon. Some people appeared to be surprised, but I said no. The speaker is not meant to be doing partisan politics in the sense. How do I know the law and then apply something else? Once we are not doing that kind of thing, we are making progress.
Okay, and we'll get back to some of the more political attributes of being a member of parliament and being a speaker in a short while. Let me remind our viewers that you're watching us on GTV Breakfast, and this is our exclusive conversation with former Speaker of Parliament, Professor Mike Aaron Oquaye. We're talking about the strength of Parliament and what it has been able to achieve so far. I guess on this next leg, I want to talk about accountability for a bit. And like I've alluded to in the first part, you supervised a supermajority in your time, your stint as Speaker of Parliament, and we are witnessing one bid for fighting corruption and ensuring that institutions are held accountable.
A supermajority cannot affect oversight because nobody decides how many seats a party should get before the event. So sometimes the majority will be super, sometimes it may not, and we shouldn't worry too much about that.
Okay, the numbers shouldn't matter.
The numbers shouldn't really matter because it is not easy to predetermine the number
in real terms.
And that is why
for the minority to will.
They record the votes of senators. They are recorded. You can know how did Obama vote on affirmative action in this direction whilst he was a senator. We don't have it here. So that the votes then become not the vote of the MP, but the vote
of the constituents.
But the vote position, the party, and for that matter, the government. And then you are expected to vote for it when you are part of the party, of the government's party in parliament. We must rather develop more of the individual's vote. It makes members of parliament really sit, work, and stand to be counted. Because you know, if the vote is really what is your principled position, you can defend it. Then someday, when, let's give you the example of President Mahama and President Akufo-Addo. They were both long-standing honorable members of parliament. When they were contesting for the presidency, there was nothing like looking at their voting record as a way of judging them. How did the one or the other vote on affirmative action for women? How did one or the other vote on environment issues? How did one vote with regard to homosexuality? And so on and so forth. Then you judge the people on the basis of their
principled positions
exactly.
on those issues.
And these are what make politics of issues.
And you are a firm voice on some of those principled positions when it comes to some topical issues that we've encountered. For example, your good friend, you mentioned Honorable Oseiche Mensabon, who thinks that we should get to a point where even the Speaker of Parliament is an elected member of Parliament rather than someone who is appointed or nominated and then voted for. What's your stand on
Members of Parliament are elected. Every person is elected by only one constituency. So no member of parliament must act as if he is being elected by the people. The Speaker of Parliament is not going to work for any particular elected member of parliament. And what is more, I think the detachment that a speaker must have so that he can be impartial. It's very, very important.
What you call a detachment, some argue is a removal from the reality, perhaps.
It's not a matter of reality at all. I've just told you about Honorable Ayariga's case, for example. Maybe if I were a member of parliament only, I would have thought of it differently. But, you know, especially lawyers, we are trained in such a way that a lawyer can really take a stand if he moves onto the adjudicating chair. So if a lawyer becomes a judge, in fact, his behavior changes. He wouldn't go to the pub to go and drink freely again. There are so many things that he's stopped from. And then he becomes adjudicatory in his attitudes. When the speaker is detached, visibly, manifestly, day by day, from his from one caucus in parliament, that whether the majority or the minority, it helps him to be a better referee.
But historically, all speakers would no doubt be argued that have been aligned to one side of the political divide or the other. So
that is true.
Where is that detachment?
But that is why I tell you, we have been trained, especially if the person is a lawyer. The moment now in parliament as the speaker, you are actually appointed as a judge. So the way you used to behave as a lawyer changes, and we know it. We are able to do it.
But wouldn't your experience as a lawyer contribute to your performance as a judge?
Oh, it's true. It helps. But you realize that you now know how to adjudicate rather than argue a case out. Lawyers are very able to do that. So if you make an ordinary member the overall referee, one day he's sitting here, the next time he's also arguing or what? No. You refrain from anything that is descending onto the arena, and now you rule over them. In fact, a speaker can be reminded if he's sitting and he becomes so loquacious, that he becomes so argumentative, that one member of parliament can really tell him, Mr. Speaker, respectfully, now you have descended into the arena, arguing a case. A speaker must never do that. But that is what a member of parliament should do. You must listen and adjudicate. And the more you are detached, the better.
But if most African countries have told this line, what really could be the shortfalls of having a speaker also as an MP, a member of parliament? I know some people do it that way. But in my opinion, the way of detachment is the best. Okay, so the speaker should not be an elected MP, and that's your opinion. Now let's talk about
the speaker can be an elected MP, but not a serving elected MP. And a speaker may be elected when he's already an MP, but he must step down in accordance with our constitution.
He must step down to assume the position of full speaker.
Exactly. He
which will trigger a by-election in his constituency.
So that there will be a by-election in his constituency. That is the difference. So our constitution, therefore, is very clear that you cannot be both. You cannot be a member of parliament and a speaker at the same time.
But you can be an MP and a minister at the same time.
No, that is doable. The constitution allows it. Something which is not good for us at all.
And that should, you think that is something that should also be changed?
Oh, it must definitely be changed. And thank God it has been proposed by the
Constitutional Review.
Exactly. And because a minister and an MP, the minister is part and parcel of the executive. The member of parliament is someone that those in the executive must answer to. How can you perform the action and answer to yourself? No wonder parliament is not strong in that regard over here. I think there must be a dichotomy. Choose where you want to be. And what is more, if you look at the way American senators are powerful, because they have a senatorial career. Here, our career is rather not too strong. I will use mild words. Why? Because actually, the members of parliament, when their party is in power, all right, they don't look at the speaker as their ultimate. They look at Jubilee House as their ultimate. They want to be ministers. And then when they get to be ministers, they will have to divide themselves into two, serving, going to cabinet, meeting foreign people, and all those other aspects of the executive. At the same time, the person might be taking a vote in parliament, arguing in parliament, researching in parliament. We don't research effectively. If we have a parliamentary class that is following a senatorial career, we'll see that the difference will show to all of us.
Vote buying has become quite topical. In the lead up to the MPP selection of a flag bearer for the next major general election, and in the lead up to the NDC's election of a candidate for the Ayawaso East constituency by-election, these calls have resurfaced again. You have been two-time MP in this really big constituency, one of the biggest in the country.
In fact, at the moment, the biggest.
How have you handled these expectations from constituents vis-a-vis the constitutionality or moral uprightness of running a clean, balanced and equal opportunity campaign?
Let me speak about the generality and the principle of it. I will wish that the common fund for MPs will be scrapped.
Okay.
You see, in political definitions, we have the executive. All these building of boreholes and things, they are executive functions. That Parliament should legislate. Parliament must be accounted to. Parliament must determine whether the functions. I think you are seriously blurring the difference, and it doesn't help us. The member of Parliament in our present situation is expected to do executive things. We have an MCE who is not elected by the people, so they don't really feel his presence, his or her presence, and they don't mind. Then they come to the MP when somebody is dead, when somebody is doing outdooring, when somebody is going to go to school, and so on and so forth. I want us to start electing our MCEs quickly. Then all the executive functions will be thrown to them. And if we don't have also the common fund, then nobody is expecting anything from you by way of coming to help them in one way or the other. But rather, MPs must be given an allowance, a very good allowance, so that they can supervise projects, so that they can oversee projects.
But as things stand now, there is a common fund, and there are strict rules, depending on which administration is in office, on how to execute those funds and what to execute them on. And still, these things happen. Sometimes they are not allegations anymore. Sometimes people attest to the fact that they have received these monies very close to election time, and it is meant to be an inducement. We can no longer run away from that fact. And I'm sure you've experienced it yourself.
I've even written on it at length. So we're coming to the second leg. Vote buying is corruption. In fact, cheating, inducing, so illegally, is an offense.
But they say it's TNT.
But it is being honored in the breach. You remember what happened recently. In the end, the Ayawaso matter, the party could not really come to a definitive pronouncement. Why? I laughed because all those MPs who were that day crying foul have all been involved in it before. If, like Christ said, let the innocent person throw the first stone, and so on, nobody could throw the stone. They cannot throw the stone.
But the MPP could not throw the stone either when it had also come out of the flag bearer election.
That is so. Then we say, if there is a problem, and we see it as part of corruption, and we see it as a way of money unduly influencing our politics, let us sit and find out what we should do. You see, the law is an instrument for mischief correction. And you don't want moneycracy to become the essence of politics in Ghana. Let us not cry foul over some individuals and regulations whereby you cannot break that law.
So campaign finance transparency laws should be enacted.
Exactly, there must be laws.
Should government fund political parties?
The government should also fund political parties, and in some countries they do it in a proportionate manner, according to the number of seats you have in parliament, so that some people don't make it their job. You don't have any serious party, you just come for some money just because you formed a party, and then you also expect an allocation. No, we are talking about parties with membership in parliament.
Did you?
Not done in my time, but it has been a subject of think tank developments. I have written articles on them, both in the graphic recently, not long ago, because actually we cannot just sit and let people buy their way to become president in the Republic of Ghana. It's a shame. Nor a member of parliament. Therefore, we should really do something serious about it. And one way is political party financing bill, which we have toyed with before. We've not been able to bring it about. But I would just say, let us all realize that this is a problem. Monocracy is to be detested. And if so, how do we do it? We need to have a national discussion on this matter.
The General Secretary of the NDC agrees that this is a deeper social systemic problem which is entrenched. But if the MPs appear to benefit from it, and if the delegates appear to benefit from it, where can we apply the pressure to see this through? This attempt to, as you say, use the law as an instrument to correct mischief.
Yes, many crimes benefit one person or the other. Okay? But that doesn't mean it must be allowed. Therefore, I would advocate the collective approach to ensure that there are rules and regulations, because it's been done in some other countries. And if you go against the limits and you are caught, you are dealt with like any other criminal is caught in an offense, and you are disqualified.
Some fear that once these laws are brought on board, people would find innovative ways of bypassing the system. Just like now, people do not say, take 3,000 cedis to go and vote for me. Take a television set or a motorbike to go and vote for me. But they use other colorful terms. We are giving you lunch. We are giving you transportation. What's the guarantee that criminalizing vote buying would actually work?
If you go to the Scandinavian countries, where I have read of the best practices, if you engage in any form of what is described as treatment, you treat the person. So whether you treat him to lunch, or you treat him to money, or you treat him to something in cash or in kind, generally speaking.
I remember sometime in reported on account in Parliament, and you are taking a firm stand. You said that if you were in the chair as speaker in any conversation around legalizing or removing the criminal element of what then becomes known as homosexuality is done, you would not supervise over that conversation. It's been many years since then, but we appear to still be having that conversation. The previous administration held a number of readings on the floor of Parliament of this, what we've come to call the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill, aka the anti-LGBTQ plus bill. We are due to see, at least according to Speaker Bagwin, a relaying of that bill in Parliament now. How do you think we should approach it differently this time to ensure that while we consider the human rights arguments that proponents make, we also do not lose sight of our cultural and, moral, for lack of a better expression, tendencies argument that others have also made?
I have a strong position on this matter. And I'm glad that the private members' bill roots that I led Parliament into bringing about was the way we ultimately had that bill passed. I'm glad about it, very, very glad about it. There are things which governments may do runabouts about. There are. But the private members' bill allows people in Parliament to really take on social, economic, and a variety of issues that are of relevance to the society, but which government at that particular time may not want to treat as a priority. And this is the essence of it. It's against our ideas, beliefs, and values. it is un-Ghanaian. In this country, we have the Christians, the vast majority, we have the Muslims, and we also have what we may call the other natural, traditional religious people. In all these areas, we eschew homosexuality. And Ghanaians are also entitled to have their own ideas, beliefs, and values as the underpinning aspect of their laws. Therefore, if the Europeans feel that they have now, developed so much that they have got enough room for frivolous matters, we should not copy them. And especially when this is being forced down our throat as even a conditionality for assistance and so on and so forth.
So that's your argument for
moral.
Others have the human rights argument that we need to protect people respective of their preferences and behind closed doors. You are an astute lawyer yourself.
And I'm a strong human rights person as well.
So how
Nevertheless,
do you weigh?
Those people, they don't understand the concept of human rights. They don't. Because, for example, why is it that in Britain, you go and marry 2-3 women and they jail you for bigamy? Why?
Okay, so polygamy defeats the argument of anti-homosexuality.
It tells you simply that in every society, there must be values. If we don't have values, we're worse than animals. Simple.
Okay.
And our values don't permit that. Beyond religion, our values, that's why I talked about all the various sectors from the human rights perspective. So I have, and I'm not saying that, for example, if a person is caught in homosexuality, he must be dealt with by, for example, castrating the person. No, that will be against the human rights provisions in our 1992 Constitution. It will amount to inhuman treatment under our law. But nevertheless, it can be dealt with in other ways because we don't subscribe to it. And we consider it as a crime by way of an imprisonment, by way of a non-custodial sentence, and so on and so forth.
Okay. Because this is has always been quite a controversial topic, and we could have this the rest of this entire interview just based on that alone. But let's focus on the economy a bit and what our agri sector and mining sectors are doing. I'm sure you followed the cocoa conversation and the crisis that the current administration says it is set to reset back on a positive footing. What have been your impressions about how it's been handled so far? Cocoa, the fact that prices are what they are currently, and we are not able to get as much from the land because of illegal mining and the problems that we've identified, the challenges within the cocoa sector.
Treated cocoa badly rather than partisan. Today, the Chinese are vying with us to become from the third largest producer position to second, and then they will now tackle Côte d'Ivoire, and they are the best, the number 1 in the world. They've started the production. We knew it years ago. We've done nothing.
Even under your
I'm
party's
talking about since time immemorial.
Okay.
From every regime. Kwame Nkrumah established a jute bag factory. It collapsed after his overthrow. What have we done? The cocoa that we harvest, the bag in which it is put, we cannot even manufacture bag, whilst jute is only grass. Jute, grass.
Cocoa Board says it's a rife area for private sector investment, and that indeed there is a company,
all those
but they are yet to meet the standard.
We are not making it here, and I want to be historical about it. We are not making the bag in which we shall take our very good material abroad to sell and make money. We can manufacture the bag. And
every year, Cocoa Board spends large sums of money importing.
And it is business for some people, without discrimination. It is business for some people.
Some of the statistics that have been shared with us have been staggering, including in the past the past administration, the number of bags that have been brought into the country, which in some cases far exceeded the thousands of tons that we were producing as a country. So imports have been made of jute bags that the country did not even need at certain points in time.
Well, that underscores the fact that it is just business as usual for some people. It's as simple as that. It's an abuse of the cocoa industry, and it's an abuse of the people of Ghana.
Where do we go from here? The reforms that government have
It's a very simple matter. The thing in which we put our cocoa, since it is only grass, let us grass it here and have it. Furthermore, every year, the moment a government comes to power, I'm not talking about any particular government, all governments, quickly the cocoa board bosses go to have an international conglomerate putting together money to buy cocoa. Who doesn't know that when you are giving money to buy cocoa, you can't lose? Everybody knows. So that money, do we need to get it from abroad? Some time ago, that money was being given by Bank of Ghana. But what happened? After the 1966 experience, Barclays Bank and others, and Standard Chartered, they applied for, and some people approved for them to have the cocoa pre-financed by them. Then the international conglomerate thing started. If this government wants to help Ghana, let them stop the international conglomerate at once.
Was it attempted under the NPP administration?
Oh, you see, you people are very fond of politicizing things. I've told you clearly, all generations from 1966, after Nkrumah's going, started doing this way of getting money from the imperialists abroad.
So all governments have been guilty?
Governments have all been guilty. You see, some matters are statesmanship matters. It's a Ghanaian matter. It might be told as it is, irrespective of who was in charge of which government or not. And if you investigate, if you ask, you'll be told that this is really true. And we don't want the JP Morgan and others to be financing our cocoa. I tell you, Bank of Ghana can finance that cocoa. Because it's a matter of just money to buy, sell, and then buy again. You know what? When you establish a business, let's say even if it's a taxi business, and you have money to go and buy whatever it is that you will sell, should you be going there forever? After a while, don't you gather your own capital? Mm-hmm. Why have we not gathered our capital? That's what I'm telling you today.
All right. It appears that in the gold space, in the mining space generally, that space is also not bereft of its own plethora of issues. The fundamental thing is, where really have we missed the mark? Because we have a system where much of the gold is exported, just like in the cocoa system where much of the raw produce is exported. Unfortunately, the environmental degradation in the lead up to, prospecting for gold and galamsey, the threat to our water bodies, a water crisis in Elmina, Cape Coast, Tamale, and elsewhere, and it appears that every sector of the economy is bleeding from the effects of these natural resources that God has blessed us with. How do we get back on track? Where should we start?
If I may really talk about, let's say, the lithium matter, which is so rife. Because you see, very often we've all heard our galamsey boys are telling us, what work can I go and do? Mm-hmm. They say they don't have work to do.
Livelihood, alternative
Fine.
livelihood.
Is that alternative livelihood? They don't have it.
Is that an excuse to desecrate the resources of the country?
Well, they've been saying it. Is that not so? Mm-hmm. We hear it. What can we do? We've got lithium. Then we allow the white man to come and take the whole thing away raw.
Do we have what it takes to not allow
that is
that
the
to
question.
happen?
We'll answer it step by step. Why should we allow that to continue. Because I'm telling you, very soon, the children of people like you will not have any job. Because there's no job to do. We don't create jobs. And we can create it if only we sit down and talk. Today, we are finishing the 17th IMF in March or so, they say. But nevertheless, the latest announcement is that it will be renewed for some 3 more months. I believe because there are still difficulties. And we want something to come from abroad for us to manage the economy. That can be the only reason. Fine. I don't want to blame anybody. I want to blame all of us. Because you see, we've not got our fingers then on the problem. Where shall we have diamond, bauxite, manganese, timber, oil, lithium, and so on?
So you think lithium presents us with a rare opportunity to restart?
A godly opportunity.
Godly. Okay.
A God to think of it again. It has come at such an opportune time. 17 times you have been to IMF. It tells you we must sit and stare. Look at the lithium. All we are talking about is something that will last between 12 to 15 years, period. The capital is laughable. Ghana, out of the Mineral Income Investment Fund, MIIF, have given this for this lithium $32 million. Many Ghanaians don't know this. We have already spent $32 million on it. If we are that poor, and there's still money, a company that says they are coming to mine it for us, is there any big difference? What economists say, balancing the equities. We will balance the equities there at the table. The lithium has got a value. Lithium is black rock. Put that for Ghana. That's our contribution. We have paid $32 million. It is added to the contribution. You realize that immediately, the Atlantic was saying, assuring the global financial circles that they have got to the stage where almost the contract will be signed, approved by Parliament soon, and then nobody, by way of an investor, comes to Ghana holding portfolios of money. When they get parliamentary approval, they will now go and shop for money.
So the onus is on Parliament to ensure that we get a good deal. We put together a good deal that ensures the country gets the economic benefits, that ensures that the local communities benefit. So where should parliamentarians put their finger? Where should that extra attention be given to ensure that these lessons are brought to bear?
Ownership. The thing already belongs to us. And then we say, come and take it. And then give me royalty. What are you talking about? In this day and age. And my young lady, ask yourself, and may Ghanaians ask themselves, is this how the Dubais did it? They did not. They own it. But why we, Africans, why are we doing this?
Are you suggesting that we should hold on to mining until we put the structures in place?
It is not gold. You will find that the engineers working the mineral out are Ghanaians. They are the Ghanaians. They are Ghanaians. And we have got, the other day, I displayed Ghanaian companies from these things that I have here. They are there. Who can do it for Ghana. But if you have something, if you want to have a taxi and you are not able to drive and you got the money to buy a taxi, you hire a taxi driver. And you can hire all these people global world. Now, if you look at the number of Indian technocrats who are working for global companies in America, it is very, very interesting to see. In other words, when you have something, you hire the workers and you pay them. And in fact, if you want to also get the best of human labor, there are companies which are now international companies. They only hire labor. You know that you go to them, you say, I want...
It's like an agency.
It's an agency. Global experts. They will give you the appropriate people. Let them come and give that to us. So I will want that Atlantic will bring them together. Whatever they have spent, they to become shareholders. But they will never be the majority shareholders. Otherwise, it's a cheat.
Okay.
So as for royalties, it's a thing of the past. We don't want Parliament to even talk about it. The government should not even talk about it. Because I say, this is not how the Dubais did it.
But
if you keep on with royalty, you will remain poor forever.
So,
let me also tell you one thing. All these primary products like lithium, they have the secondary benefits, the secondaries. The battery that we made, we should tell them we want the factory here in Ghana. Because that's the only way our children and grandchildren can work.
But do we have the power to do that? And is that more affordable than an already established factory? Because what happens is that if there is already a manufacturing hub in, say, China, because China is big on manufacturing,
you can't.
Even people who trade find it cheaper to import the already manufactured products than to set up the business here to manufacture here.
We too should have areas where we also employ our people. We should. In economics, there's something they call an infant industry. The British coal industry was infant at one stage and it was moribund at another stage. We must develop something.
We have to start from somewhere.
We have to start from somebody, from somewhere. And particularly, you realize that if we are producing the batteries here, one of the ancillaries of lithium, our children in the far away villages like Kodobeda in the eastern region, Okurasi, Wasabrampa, those people would also now use battery-powered computers ready-made for them.
Honorable,
and this is very, very important for our development.
Whilst we are on the topic of accountability and, documenting our history, making sure that we are transparent, I wonder what you think about this controversy about renaming the Kotoka International Airport Accra International Airport. On one side of the argument, there are those who think we are honoring someone who, conducted a coup, who overthrew a legitimate government from power. On another side, others are saying this is not what we need as a country. There may be cost implications and we are not ready to deal with that cost now. Let's just go with what we have and focus the resources and attention on what needs to be done in other sectors. Others think, you know what, it's not a proud moment in our history. Let's take it off and name the airport after the city in which it is located. Where do you stand on all these arguments?
It's very, very interesting an argument. But let's face it, it has all got to do with Nkrumahs and anti-Nkrumahs. That kind of dichotomy, which I don't think is good for us as a people. Sometimes when you say something which was not very palatable so far as the Nkrumah regime is concerned, people just label you as anti-Nkrumahist. For example, the founding fathers. The moment you say, look, Nkrumah is a founding father, but he's only one of many others who can also be seen as founding fathers, some people get jittery. Nkrumah is a great man. Nkrumah was the first president of this republic. Before then, he had been prime minister. And even before, he had been leader of government business. Nobody has gone through that kind of thing before, as he did. Nkrumah, apart from his first position, I lived at a time when we saw the Ghana Educational Trust Schools, La Bonnie, Ghana National, and other places. I mean, he revolutionized secondary education. When I was sitting for common entrance, there were 13 assisted secondary schools, 13. If you don't get one, you are done. And then there were 2 autonomous.
This was when you were in Presec?
When I was in Presec.
So before you went
to Presec.
Before Presec?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I went to Presec from 58 to 62. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about the time I was going to go into a secondary school if you did not get a place in one of the 13 secondary schools, and also either at Chimota or Takoradi Sektek, which were labeled autonomous institutions. Very good. By the time we finished Form 5, Nkrumah had revolution. It is Nkrumah who did it. Fantastic, because education is the essence of development. If you look at what he did to Kolebu, but of course he did not build it, Godibet built it. Nevertheless, he did a wonderful job with regard to expanding Kolebu, Kumasi, Central Hospital, and so on and so forth. one impressive thing that must always be spoken about is his faith in the African that led to our having a medical school at Kolibu. And it was at a time when we were skeptical, wondering whether we could do it. He stood his ground. He brought white professors from abroad. He said, the white people, we can all you employ them, they will come. And then he put Professor Ismon as a Ghanaian dean of the medical school. Beautiful achievements in many other spheres. I consider it a great thing. But believe you me, there are so many other negative. On top of that, the law which allowed accommodation by way of regional assemblies. Today we are all talking about decentralization. He quickly removed it because he wanted centralization in everything. At the same time, apart from the Preventive Detention Act which started so early, it was renewed also in 1960. Everything changed. In fact, Article 55 of the 1960 Constitution gave Nkrumah alone for the rest of his life the power to suspend Parliament and rule by decree from Flagstaff House. Today, will any Ghanaian like it? Nobody will like it. Human rights matters, he said, they are not necessary because we are now developing a nation. Today, when a Ghanaian is detained and he cannot be detained beyond 48 hours, for example, he must thank somebody for it. Because if Kotoka had not come and the change had not come, the 1969 Constitution too would not have come. And the fundamental human rights that we have in the 1969 Constitution, which was repeated in the 1979 Constitution, and also in our present Constitution, 1992 Constitution, that will also not be the lot of the Ghanaian. So, if you balance the equation, you see that, of course, certain things went wrong. Am I lying? Certain things were not right. So, you cannot say that Kotoka was not of any relevance. He was of relevance. He was of relevance because at the time Nkrumah was forcibly removed in 1966, there could not have been an election. There was no election planned for this country. Now Nkrumah had declared a one-party state,
which a referendum had
yes,
given him the power to do.
Course, yes.
So the people of Ghana accorded him certain powers through
it's
that
not
constitution.
Every law that is desirable. Assuming Parliament were today to pass a Preventive Detention Act because they have got a certain majority, will we say that is what we want as a people? All that I'm saying is that there were certain areas which were detestable. Should we repeat those ones? Today, nobody wants that to be repeated in Ghana. Because if you detain a person, he will go to court and habeas corpus will apply.
Okay, so in Kotoka,
Therefore, led that revolt was also of relevance in bringing about certain kinds of changes in Ghana. Now, if you say that a coup maker, because it was a coup, what about all the monuments regarding Rawlings in this country? Those very people forget that it can also be applied that way. If you destroy the monument now, I can assure you, a day will come when some people will build it. But that is exactly what I told you about President Mills earlier. We shall do ding dong, say here. We go forwards, we come backwards. If that's what those people like, let them do.
So history deserves preservation, regardless of
it is a
whose comfort is unsettled.
It's a historical event. The things happened. It was part of the history. I wouldn't want anybody to go today to anywhere Rawlings's monument is and destroy it. Whether you like it or not, it is part of the Ghanaian history.
So should it or should it not be changed?
Oh, it shouldn't be changed.
It should be maintained.
It's
part
and parcel of our history.
If your advice is not heeded to, and it does happen to be changed to Accra International Airport, as the proposal has been, what kind of precedent would you think that sets for our country going
It will
forward.
be a very bad precedent. That's why I tell you, should we go around and say, Rollins is a coup maker, everything about him destroy it in this country? Some people too won't like that. You see, you must know that the country doesn't belong to any one faction. And then some people will also rise against it. Do we also always want to destroy our country by that ding-dong battle as against thinking of who should buy our lithium?
Should we put that to a vote? Should we
Pardon?
put that to a vote? Should Ghanaians be given an opportunity at a referendum
I don't think it
to
is-
decide whether
you
or
see,
not
when you are moving
change
on, when you are
that
moving
name?
on, you move on in an accommodation. You accommodate. You accommodate Rollins, the chief coup maker. You accommodate Kutuka and all others. Mind you, it will cost about $5 million to $10 million to change this with the international insignia, international aviation authority matters, and so on and so forth.
But Kotoka is still ACC, isn't it?
But
Kotoka is still in aviation circles. If we are coming to Kotoka International Airport, KIA, it's Accra.
yes, so I'm saying that it takes a lot. I'll give you this to go and read because it's very interesting. What does it cost to change an airport's name? Oh, I tell you, this is very, very instructive. Very instructive. Millions of dollars. It can do something for us by way of our school, free SHS,
Okay.
and so on.
So I hear you siding with the argument that says there may be an argument, but at this point in our journey, we don't need to focus our energies
in fact,
and time.
forever in our journey. Because you see, the journey has got monuments. In fact, the Bible even tells us that do not move the ancient monuments. Because they let you know that Nkrumah was a great leader in many regards, but he was anti-libertarian and he abused people's human rights and people died in prison. We don't also want that. That itself is something, and that's why Kotoka is there.
So the good and the bad still tell our story,
That
but
is
at
it.
different times.
That is
so
it.
we shouldn't shift from it.
No, don't shift the ancient monuments. The Bible tells you.
Okay. It's been a very insightful conversation. I'm very grateful that you afforded us this opportunity to shine a torch in this amazing brain that you've served your country with for all these years. And I'm sure there's still a mine of information that we are yet to explore in that brain of yours. But for lack of time, we'll bring the conversation to a close here. I'm sure there will be another opportunity. I'm certainly looking forward to reading that book because I'm sure it will be a gold mine without the environmental effects that gold has had on some communities. Thank you so much, Prof,
No mention at all. It's
for
a pleasure.
your time.
And young people, learn to research. The world is exploding with information and knowledge. Those who want to tap is there for them.
Professor Aaron Mike Oquaye is a former Speaker of Parliament, former Deputy Speaker of Parliament, former MP for Dom Kwabenya, former Minister for Energy and also Communications, and he has served decades within the NPP administration, and he has a wealth of experience as a politician, a lawyer, and a devoted minister of the gospel. Today we've been at his residence and he's brought all his thoughts to bear on these national issues, hopefully contributing to the next stage of our decision-making process as a country when it comes to getting all voices on the table. Thank you for your time spent with us, and we'll take a break on GTV Breakfast. I am Thelma Taki. We'll be back after this break. Stay with us.